Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, ignorant millennials. I'm your host, Kat. Today, took a haircut because I know I look like a kid. It represents who I am, a good kid in a mad city. Anyway, I'm joined by our guest today. Our guest today goes by the name Sanela. Sanela, my brother, how you doing, sir?
Very well, man. How are you?
I'm very good, man.
Thanks.
So the reason we have Sanela here today is we're going to talk about an important topic, gap cover. No, not that thing you need for your teeth. There's an actual cover called gap cover. We're going to discuss that in a bit. But before we get straight into it, just would like to remind you to like, subscribe, comment, share, follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, and before I forget, as well, if you've been sending us DMs about suggestions, we have been seeing them, and trust me, we're gonna have those shows. But let's get into it, the straight ritual of the day before we start with any interview. Sanele, tell us who you are, what you do.
All right. So my name is Sanele Ngosi. And I'm the co-founder and managing director of Sim Wealth. Sim Wealth is a financial planning slash financial coaching firm. We're based in Sandton, and we do the full scope of financial planning. So that would be from your investment strategies, your retirement planning, your estate planning, your risk management, and along with all of other aspects that involve personal financial management.
Okay, so Sim, like what is Sim? Like, is it an abbreviation for something?
Yeah, so simple wealth.
Okay.
The way we came up with the term was we're trying to simplify the process of providing financial advice or providing financial planning services, because it is quite a complex and convoluted concept to people. It's a very challenging thing for people to manage their finances. So we're trying to simplify it as much as possible and get into a wider market.
Okay, you sound like a serious dude. No, you know your shit and you got your stuff together. But like, I think people also just want to know a bit about you, like the fun stuff about you. So outside of work, what is the last most memorable experience that you had?
Outside of work, so it's quite interesting. So I do travel a lot. And so my traveling is basically the fun things I do outside of work.
Yeah, so what is the last place, the most memorable? That was like, wow, and what happened?
So in the Lowveld, 2 months ago.
Yes.
Or just over a month ago.
Yes.
And we went hiking up some trail, and I was with my younger brother, and he sort of tripped and fell, and that was quite funny.
Oh, okay. So other people's misery are funny. I think that's why you're the relevant person for cover. Hey? Anyways, we have a quick fire. Quick fire is where we give you two options. You select one. In some instances, we throw a question here and there, just so that people can just to get to know you better and can ascertain you're not a robot. For IAR, you could be a robot here.
Could be.
You're telling us all these things. So let's start into it, man. Jay-Z or Kanye?
Jay-Z.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why Jay-Z?
Why Jay-Z? Once again, I think he's a well-established business individual, and I like how he has strategically put himself, in terms of creating his wealth and being, using his, I don't want to say fame, but using his position in terms of his social status to actually, build a legacy for himself.
So the same wouldn't apply to Kanye?
I wouldn't say that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So would you rather be rich or famous, since we're talking about rich celebrities?
Wealthy.
I
think, wealth is much more sustainable. It's much more, I think, appealing to me. Rich, money comes and goes, but if you have money and assets that can sustain your future and, be transferred or transferred to the next generation, that makes much more sense.
All right. So if you were to have dinner with anybody, who would that person be and why?
So because I am in the financial planning space, there's a gentleman in the industry called Warren Ingram, and he's one of the best financial planners in South Africa, in fact. The reason why I'd want to have dinner with him is because I want to understand, some of the challenges that he's come across, because we are quite a young business as Sim Wealth. So I want to understand what are some of the challenges that he's come across, and how has the industry, since he's been in the industry, changed, and what does he see for the future of the industry, and what implementations in terms of tech can we adopt as, a firm as well to actually understand.
Okay, I think we must touch a bit on your business towards the end of the interview there. So, people can also invest with you or get advice from you and so forth. So would you rather have a house on a beach or on a mountain?
I think on a beach.
On a beach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're about to get married. Are you married?
No.
So if you were about to get married, right, and you just proposed, who would be the first person you call?
Probably my best mate.
Your best mate?
Yeah, and my parents.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay, let's get straight into it, into the business of the day. It's gap cover. What is gap cover, you ask? Well, we're here to find out. I only know just 1% about what it is, but I believe we have the relevant man. As you've heard, he's an entrepreneur in the financial space. He's got his own business. Sanel. A lot of people don't even know his gap cover exists.
Yeah.
What is gap cover?
So what gap cover is essentially, it's a short-term insurance where it covers all of the shortfalls in terms of your medical expenses, your qualifying medical expenses that your medical aid wouldn't generally cover. So to give you an example, if say for instance you were hospitalized or you had a hospital plan as part of your medical aid, right? And it doesn't cover for certain procedures, but these procedures are planned in hospital procedure. So gap cover would come in and be that cover that covers for those specific fees or expenses that come with that medical procedure.
So I hear what you're saying, but the reason why a lot of us don't know about it is, let me actually ask you, why isn't it as advertised as it should be, and who actually offers this thing? Because whoever is offering this thing, I don't see those adverts on TV.
So generally, how gap cover would come about is if you have medical aid with, say for instance, a Discovery, a Sanlam, a Momentum or whatever, once you've taken up the medical aid, then they would call you and say, okay, would you like to take on gap cover, and this is what gap cover does for you. Why you wouldn't necessarily see it a lot is because I think in the industry as wide, a lot of the plans that you find in terms of medical aid, you can have a hospital plan, or you can have a day-to-day, expensive and savings plan. So it's more, I think if you're more prone to a lot of illnesses, and you have, some sort of hereditary illnesses that come from your family, then, it would be an appealing factor for you. But, if you're a healthy person, it's not necessarily an essential, unless you want to cover yourself should you find yourself in an accident or anything of that nature. So it's just a buffer for insurance, for medical aid, rather than an actual insurance that you would need. So
to a larger degree, is there gap cover for almost every type of cover that one can have? So for example, is there gap cover for vehicles, and what is it called? Because I think, is there gap cover for household insurance, and what is it called, and who offers these? Because I just don't want to also specifically narrow it to the medical side. That's probably going to be the large conversation of today, the medical one, but as well, what other gap covers exist out there in the market? So
generally gap cover you would find in the medical space, because of how expensive medical can become. But in terms of short-term insurance for cars, short-term insurance for household goods, or for your house, that is generally covered within the premium for the house. These aren't necessarily goods or essentials where you'd claim on a regular basis should you fall ill or anything of that nature. And medical expenses become much more expensive than purchasing material, right? So if you get into an accident, you pay your excess fee,
Yes.
and that's usually what happens, with your car, and then the insurance would
Yes.
settle that.
Yes.
So how insurance would cover for
Yes.
such shortfalls, they would reinsure themselves with a
Yes.
reinsurance company to be able to cover your shortfall for car or
Yes.
household sort of incidences.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I think what I'm trying to say is that, like, so for example, I have a car and so forth. Let's just say my excess on my insurance is like 10,000 rands, because I don't want to pay like 3,000 for the particular vehicle. So obviously, the larger your excess, the less your premium.
Absolutely.
Right? So then, is there no cover for if now I need money for, I don't have 10,000 rands. Is there no cover to cover for excess? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I do understand what you're saying.
like now I got hit.
That's the agreement
This-
that you go in with the bank, right? Or the particular insurance house. If you want to have a higher access to reduce your premiums, you're doing that at your own peril. You're doing that at your own expense.
Yes.
So you need to then, as an individual,
Yes.
ensure that you have the access or the access cash should something
Yes.
or calamity
So
happen.
what I'm saying is there no insurance company that offers insurance for my excess?
None I've heard of.
Okay. Perhaps maybe they should start on it, because like.
Perhaps there's a market for it.
Yeah, because most people generally, I know a large, like especially when you're getting your first car,
Yeah.
and you've just had a license like recently, that premium, especially for a male perspective, can be quite exorbitant.
Yeah, absolutely.
And most of us will go for a higher excess than somebody I hit into a pole. Or so, sometimes it's those minor things that you think like, damn, even to fix this, you find the excess is way more than for you to actually fix
Yeah.
it. So then you kind of wish that, I wish there was, because like with vehicles, you have shortfall cover for in the event that your car gets written
Yes.
off and you owe to the bank more,
Yeah.
right? They will cover obviously for that, right? So like even with excess, I thought maybe there is that cover that like, okay, I need to claim, like to fix this thing myself is 5,000, but through insurance is 10,000. But if I had some cover that pays, like I pay 100 rand, and whenever I need to claim from the insurance, they'll pay that excess for me. That would work out.
So, typically with insurance, what I've come to understand is that if the damage on your vehicle is less than your excess, there's no point in you lodging a claim.
Okay.
So just fix that particular damage yourself. Then you avoid having the whole paperwork and you paying in higher access where you
Yes.
could have just paid
Yes.
the fees yourself.
Yes.
If you have a higher
Yes.
access. If your access is 3,500 rand and the damage is 5,000,
Yes.
you have some sort of savings of 1,500
Yes.
that you've actually initiated,
Yes.
but you're also paying a higher premium,
Yes.
obviously. So I think it's about understanding where exactly the advantage is.
Yeah.
Are you a person that travels a lot?
Yes.
Are you a person that parties a lot?
Okay.
Are you a person that tends to
Yeah.
drive fast?
Yeah.
If you are that person, then you want to be paying a higher premium with a lower access should something happen. But if you don't travel a lot and you find yourself in the house and you do have an emergency fund to actually cover your access, then it's quite easy for you to actually then have a lower premium, because the access funds that you would have been paying on your insurance, you just toss that into your emergency fund. And
Okay.
then once you have that emergency fund, should a calamity happen and you have an access of 10,000, you can actually cover that.
Oh, okay. Ignorant millennials, I hope you all have been listening. You're getting some free financial advice right here. Anyway, back to the medical aspect of it. With the vehicle one, I think, that one needs to be done. And insurance for excess.
Yeah.
But back to the medical aspect of it. So you say it covers for qualifying expenses. What are these qualifying expenses that it covers for? So if I have braces right now, typically braces are like 25K, right? I'm sitting there like, well, my MSA cannot cover that in its entirety. Or in some cases, I know some of my friends, spectacles and whatever, right? You get there, when you're young, you want these even fancy lenses, whatever, you want a Guess, whatever, Dior, whatever lens, and you get there like 5,000, whatever. Then you find your MSA is like 5,000. It's unwise to eat all your MSA on that type of stuff, even though they are in need in that particular instance. So what are those qualifying expenses? Does it cover for that instances as well?
So, okay, I'll start with answering in terms of the qualifying expenses, right?
Yes.
So, qualifying expenses would be considered scheduled in-hospital procedures.
Okay.
Right? So, MRI scans, CT scans, any cancer-related sort of, illnesses.
Yes.
And operations that require, to actually work on your body.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what gap cover would generally cover, right?
Okay.
And then in terms of your glasses or whatever it is that might come to you, then in that instance, medical aid would usually cover that. But if anything, but medical aid would say they would limit the cover for you changing your glasses. Say for instance 2,000 rand, and the frame that you want is 3,000 rand, and then you'd have to cover that.
Yes.
But that would be considered a qualifying medical expense, and then that 1,000 rand you can claim off of your tax deductions at the end of the year when you actually submit your taxes, provided you keep the receipts and you can submit proof to SARS. So that becomes a tax deduction, and you can actually you can reduce your tax liability.
Okay. All right. So it's basically, I'm just covering, it sounds like a hospital cover, if anything, a gap cover.
Yes.
So then what's the difference between a hospital cover and gap cover then?
So hospital cover would generally cover up to a certain amount, right? When you're paying your medical aid, right? Whereas gap cover would cover the shortfall for that procedure. So if for instance, your medical aid says it covers you up to 100,000 rand in hospital, right? But your hospital bill comes out at 150,000 rand. Gap cover would come in and cover that excess 50,000 rand without you taking money out of your pocket.
Okay.
So that's why gap cover is there. That's why gap cover is necessary.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you find yourself in an accident, for instance, and your medical aid only covers you up to 100,000 rand, but your medical expenses come up to 150,000 rand, gap cover comes in there.
God, so it seems, would you say there's a need for all three? All three by me, I mean medical aid, gap cover, and hospital cover for one to have.
So generally with medical aid, it would have different plans for you, right?
Yes.
So if you're not versus me, I don't get ill a lot, right? So the medical aid cover I have, or the medical plan I have, covers me mostly for hospital, or if I get hospitalized, right?
I think I know which one it is, but anyway.
Yeah. So once should I get hospitalized, I'm covered at that point in time, right? But if I then add, so for instance, typically a gap cover would be between 50 rand and 100 rand. If I add that 50 rand premium on a month-to-month basis, and my medical expenses are over and above my medical cover from my medical aid, then my gap cover would kick in.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, makes sense. So then how much typically does gap cover cost?
So it ranges from provider to provider, but it would range typically between 50 rand and 150 rand per month.
Is it for one individual, or is it like, because I've seen like with certain companies, there's like, it's not just for yourself, like that 200, it's like, like a funeral cover type of thing. You can add 2 or 3 members. Is it the same thing?
So hence the reason why the range, right? So for one member, typically you'd be paying, a young male will be paying 50 rand on a month-to-month basis. But if you have other dependents that are within the cover or within your medical aid, then it can go up to, say for instance, 150 to even 200, depending on where you're getting the gap cover, depending on who is supplying this or who the insurance house is supplying this gap cover for you.
So because from where I'm standing, because I'm thinking of the large South African audience, like I really seriously think, because not most of us can afford this, especially like if you have a child and you have a partner, you can afford to have just medical cover alone, because you would probably need, you're gonna need hospital cover or the gap cover. In certain instances, you're gonna need like all 3 of them, especially because now, like typically, for example, if we speak of the African nation or whatever, typically cancer is not something that you would in the past hear, somebody died of cancer or whatever. Or if there was, then we're just never told. We're told it's natural, whatever, and so forth. So now it seems like more and more, like there's more and more diseases and whatever that just seems to be coming in. Obviously, some of them are radiation based, and some of them obviously as polluting and all that. So it definitely feels like there is a necessity to have all three. Because a typical cover medical cover that somebody gets, you'll find they'll say MSA is like 5,000 rands. What's going to happen with 5,000 rands if I need spectacles?
Yeah.
And so forth. So, but yeah, I guess that's just something else. So how much does how does gap cover work? Is it like an annual amount they cover up to? Like every year that amount, if you didn't claim this year, or if you claim this year for like 100,000, yeah, right? You used for gap cover, they're not gonna be prejudiced and say last year you took 100,000, you can only take 50,000 this year. Is that every year it's renewed?
Yeah. So you obviously have a premium that you pay on a month-to-month basis, and they would typically limit the annual amount that they would pay out in terms of the gap cover, right? I'm going to use similar numbers again, easy, simple numbers to understand. So if they say, okay, cool, your gap cover per month is 50 Rand, but you are limited to claim an annual amount of 150,000 Rand this year. So if you haven't claimed that 150,000 Rand, it doesn't roll over. The next year, it starts again.
Oh my word.
You see, yeah.
So literally they're benefiting more than anything else.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you haven't claimed, yes, but if you haven't claimed on that year, some insurance houses would say to you that, okay, cool, because you haven't claimed, we'll give you back a certain amount of your premiums for you to claim back as, expenses this year.
I think in what you're saying, actually, because I always ask myself, because even, in America, they have what they call medical insurance, and we have medical aid. And I always ask myself, what's the difference between insurance and medical aid? But in your answer, because I don't know, maybe you can help me as well, our viewers and myself here. So medical aid, you can roll over, like, your MSA, it rolls over if you've not used and whatever. So it seems like from your answer with insurance, you're lost, typically.
Both medical aid and gap cover are considered short-term insurance.
Yes.
But medical aid, because I'll use a savings plan for instance.
Yes.
If you don't use up all of your savings, it rolls over to the next year.
Yes.
Right? Or they can pay it out to you as a claim.
Yes.
Right? So for instance, in the past tax year, I didn't use a lot of my savings. So then my medical aid said to me, okay, cool, because you haven't used all of your savings, we can either pay that savings into your, we can pay that back to you. So I chose the option, okay, pay it back to me, because it's a qualifying medical premium that I was paying, but I didn't actually use it. So that was paid back to me. Whereas with gap cover, it's an insurance. It covers you for that specific period of 12 months. If you don't use it within that 12 months, it doesn't roll over to the next 12 months. So it's an annually renewed contract. Whereas with medical aid, yes, it also is considered an annually renewed contract, but if you stay with the medical aid, they just roll it over and your savings can be either paid back into there and you can increase your cover that way.
All right. So to our viewers, I know we've been saying MSA. To those of you who don't know what MSA is medical savings account. And we get with some medical providers, like on top of, so you'll be like, they'll say like you're paying like 2,000 or 3,000, right? So you'll have, in some cases, you'll have the benefits of like, they'll cover for dental and whatever. That will not be, so an MSA is a savings account. They'll tell you like 5,000 is for your day-to-day expenses, like you're going to claim for medication and all that stuff that's taken from your MSA. So medical aid, tax deductible, obviously, right? So gap cover, do I have a tax deduction for it?
So I actually have to come back to you on that one. I'm not particularly sure, but I think you are able to qualify for a tax deduction of it if it's considered as a qualifying medical expense. So as long as anything that you do that is for your medical benefit or that is a medical expense is seen as a qualifying medical expense, you are able to claim it as a tax deduction.
So downsides of gap cover. What are the downsides of gap cover?
Well, having to pay a premium and not claim, I guess that would be considered a downside. But other than that, there's not necessarily any downside. The premium is quite low. We spend a lot of money frivolously. I think you can afford 50 rand to 150 rand on a month-to-month basis to just cover that excess medical aid, or that cover those excess medical expenses. Should you be prone to illnesses. But if you're not prone to illnesses, take out that 50 rand on a month-to-month basis just to, ensure that should something happen to you, it's covering risk. You never know what can happen tomorrow, today, when you drive out to your driveway or when you're on the highway. So it's absolutely important, I think, to have, so that there's not necessarily any shortfall to it. It's a nice to have necessity.
Okay. So then, it seems like it's harder to stay alive, it costs more to stay alive than to die, because you need all these,
expensive,
all these covers. Might as well just take out funeral cover and life cover, and then whatever happens. But since you say life is expensive, I think our viewers would like to know, obviously, you're talking and telling us about gap cover. Do you have one yourself?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And mine is with Discovery, you're asking.
Have you ever had the need to use it?
No.
As of yet?
No.
Okay, so, I just wanted to find out if has there been a time where you claimed and where it was accepted and where it wasn't rejected in its entirety. But thank you, Sanela, for joining us. And
Pleasure.
Before we wrap it up, obviously you mentioned you got your own business. Just for a minute, just tell us once again about your business, and is it black owned? Who are your partners? How can people reach your business and so forth?
Okay. So the business is called Some Wealth, and we are a financial planning, financial coaching firm. And once again, the scope of what we cover in terms of our services would be your investment strategies, would be your retirement planning strategies, would be your risk management strategies, and then would obviously be also your estate planning and personal financial planning. And what this essentially means, if you're investing, we're able to help and facilitate for that. If you're retiring or you're planning for retirement, whether it would be pre-retirement, at retirement, and post-retirement, we're able to assist with that. And then in terms of risk management, we do long-term insurance, not necessarily short-term insurance. So by long-term insurance, I mean we do covers for severe illness, disability, life cover. And then estate planning, this is us actually helping you draft and plan accordingly for your estate by taking into consideration all of the three things that I've just mentioned right now. Yeah, and then once again, with personal financial management, that would be us sitting down with you if you find yourself in excess debt, helping you with some budgeting exercises, helping you get out of that debt, helping you plan for emergencies. And you can reach us on our website. Firstly, it's called Some Wealth. It's somewealth.co.za. We have a Twitter account at sim_wealth. We have an Instagram account as well at Some Wealth. And that's where we are.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here for yourself. It seems like for all financial troubles or financial success you want to have, these are the guys you need to go and see. And we'll give you the link at the bottom of the description. You'll find where you can get more details about Some Wealth. I definitely don't think this is the last time we have him here. We are going to have him. Thank you very much for watching Ignorant Millennials. We out.